Hello everybody, my name's James, and for the benefit of those listening on the audio, you're listening to my regular YouTube live stream, Ask James, which is back on a Friday with a Saturday game week deadline this week. Over the next 55 minutes or so, I'll be going through questions on anything football related from the YouTube community, on anything they like. But before I do, to timestamp this, it is just after 3 p.m. UK time. Your important team news ahead of game week 10. Jamie Vardy is fine, according to Brendan Rodgers, has been training since Wednesday. Ben White has not begun training with Arsenal as yet. There has been a sickness bug in the camp, but he has not been ruled out. Same applies to Martin Odegaard. Kieran Tierney, we think, is probably unlikely to play at Leicester as Nuno Tavares was left out of their Carabao Cup victory over Leeds. Naby Keita has made a comeback for Liverpool. Very surprisingly, he is fit. Dan Burn is out for Brighton. It should be a choice between Duffy and Webster, who plays for them. No new team news from Manchester City. Martin Dubravka is available for selection for Newcastle United. For Chelsea, Azpilicueta, Christensen, Kante and Pulisic all trained on Thursday, although Pulisic won't be considered till next week. Lukaku and Werner are expected back after the international break. Kovacic has a hamstring injury and he'll miss the next couple of weeks. Emmanuel Dennis is suspended for Watford. James Ward-Prowse returns from suspension for Southampton. Brian Hill, who wouldn't have started for Tottenham anyway, has a hamstring issue. Paul Pogba suspended for Manchester United. Everyone else is fit. That includes Raphael Varane. Ben Gibson is suspended for Norwich. Rafinha and Junior Firpo are expected to be fit for Leeds United, according to Marcelo Bielsa. Emi Martinez is available for Aston Villa. He did fly back to Argentina to visit his ill father, but is back already in the United Kingdom and is available for selection. Marcao is not ready to return for Wolves for their Monday night fixture against Everton. Rafa Benitez was not given much away on those who've been absent, including Yerry Mina. Abdullah Doucouré is expected back no earlier than game week 12. That's your essential FPL team news, I think, ahead of game week 10. Let's get into the questions. Mohammed Kamrazaman says, "Hello James, how are you? I'm very well, thank you. Would you say something on the process of deciding the title of the content?" Oh, wow. They are very creative. Egg Catastrophe. No time to cry. Love them. Thanks. There's never any plan to them. Like on the weekend on Saturday, I had climbing Mount Foden in my head. And then on the podcast on Monday, I said catastrophe and it sounded like catastrophe. And I thought, oh, that works. For me and Suj, it was basically a bit of a catastrophe last week because of Kai Havertz blank against Norwich City. So it's generally a play on words for the main podcast, what we go for, but it's never, oh, this is what the plan's going to be. Sometimes something stupid gets said in the podcast and it sticks. Like when he spilt the coffee, we called it something to do with that. So there's never a set plan. It's normally based on something that gets said in the podcast. Austin Lady says, should I bring in Foden for Rafinha for a free this week? Not for me, mate. It looks like Rafinha's probably going to be fit and you'll be feeling a bit nervous on Sunday, I think, if Rafinha's in that team against Norwich. So, nah, selling Rafinha before Norwich, not an option as far as I'm concerned. He's going to stick it out for me. That's my plan. I understand the attraction of Foden. You could move from Rafinha to Foden and Rafinha might play and Foden might not play. That's the reality with Manchester City lineups. There's no reason to believe Phil Foden won't play. But no, I wouldn't, to be honest. I'd look at different options. James Beacock says, would you do Aubameyang and Tierney out for Jesus and Chilwell for a hit? You're looking to come down from Aubameyang. I mean, Jesus just doesn't massively appeal to me, to be honest. I'd rather you went down to sort of Tony's level and then spread the rest of the money next week. It looks like Tierney's going to be out this week, but 2 of the next 3 are Watford at home and Newcastle at home. I've got Kieran Tierney, so no, it sounds like you're trying to force it because of Ben Chilwell. It's difficult to answer, James, because I don't know what's sitting on your bench. I've kind of got Matt Lowton as cover this week, so no major concerns from my perspective. I mean, I've actually got Tierney second sub in any case, but it's really dependent what you've got on the bench, right? If you've got shit on the bench, then yeah, go through with it. I guess it kind of appeals to Aubameyang as well as Tierney, Look at those two of the next 3 home games for Aubameyang as well as Tierney. So it sounds to me like you're trying to force Ben Chilwell in. He obviously looks a ridiculously good asset at the moment, but I wouldn't force it in for a hit personally. Hasselbank is win. Hi James, if you could score a goal in any match in history, what would it be and why? Oh, loving these non-fantasy questions. 66 World Cup final, I guess, maybe. If you could go back and relive it. For Tottenham, if I could have been the Lucas Moura hat-trick in Amsterdam, if I could score the winner in the Champions League final, the goal that would win us the league title, for example, the winning goal in any North London derby, those would all be interesting. Thomas says, would you swap Diaz to Chilwell or wait till after the Palace game? Already have Reece James. If it's for free and you want to upgrade that because you're looking to move Ruben Diaz on, then fine, that's completely different. Free transfer. If you want to move that sideways, I think that's fine, Thomas. Paul Sweeney says, hi James, thanks for the great stream again. I've barely started, my friend. With 2 free transfers and no pressing issues, am I stupid to bring in Lamptey in the hope he stays fit? More for future games as he's so exciting when playing. Cheers. Yeah, I've got my eye on, as kind of discussed on yesterday's Clash of the Correspondents with Sam FPL Seagull, that yeah, I mean you don't want to start Tariq Lamptey this week, but I might have a decision to make next week in terms of trying to find a little bit of extra money and looking at some defensive coverage for 5 game weeks that I can rotate. And Brighton assets for the 5 game weeks, Newcastle, Villa, Leeds, West Ham, Southampton, is not a bad run at all. So they're in consideration. I think with Lamptey, I need to see it first. I think he'll start tomorrow. Is my instinct. He wasn't in the squad at Leicester in midweek, and that makes me think it's probably in preparation. Get yourself ready all week long for the Liverpool game. That's my impression. It seems like a very big game to bring him back in. You would probably think Newcastle next week would be more sensible. But we've seen this in the past, right? You want to get someone up to fitness quickly. Give them the hardest type of games, right? I think Lamptey might start tomorrow, but I'd want to see him first before I consider it. Next week, I'd love to go in. He's so injury prone. And it might, if you want Brighton defensive coverage, it might just be better looking at Webster or Veltman. I think Duffy might actually start again tomorrow with Dan Burns' injury. But the idea, I'm sure, is to get Webster back into that team. Birth Media says, thoughts on Bernardo Silva as an FPL asset? Not interested, I'm afraid. Having an outstanding season. No guarantee of playing with Gundogan back available, Kevin De Bruyne back available. No guarantee of him playing, unfortunately. I would rather pay extra for Foden. Sounds like, to me, trying to get a Man City player in for the sake of getting a Manchester City player in. Not particularly interested. I'm Wilson. Thoughts on Spurs' performance versus Burnley? Anything noticeable at all? Yeah, I highlighted a few clips for our advanced tier patrons on my Thursday night Talking Tactics video for them. Looked at Emerson Royal, had a really good game at Burnley on Wednesday night, showed offensive potential that has been severely lacking so far. There was a couple of times he went at his man, he got the assist for the goal. Looked like there was perhaps a little bit of expression coming from the player who is kind of safety first on at the moment. And everything I'd looked at him prior to him signing for Tottenham, or once the signing was confirmed and before he made his debut, was this is a very offensive fullback. We haven't seen it yet. But there were signs the other night that it might be coming for Emerson. I'm not suggesting an FPL asset. Might be one to keep in the back of your mind. If you want a short little run of a Tottenham defender from 12 to 15, it's only 4.9 at the moment. Christian Romero was very good in midfield as well. Lo Celso played quite well at 10. He links the play. He looks up and forward quicker than Ndombele, but Ndombele gives us better control of games. So, yeah, it was okay. Look, it was a bad game of football. Burnley were poor. We deserved to win the game on the basis of having far more chances than them. First half was a complete non-event. We basically played well for 15 minutes in the second half, and it was enough to win the game. Steve Saunders says, Sky Fantasy Football question. Do you think Leon Bailey is worth bringing in on Sunday to cover captaincy against Southampton on Friday? No, it's not where I'd look, Steve. To be honest, I think you're waiting on a next transfer there, and look, you're probably getting a 3 for 0 over a lot in that particular format. But I think Dean Smith's comments are a little bit concerning. I think he starts on Sunday, but I think he starts and it's probably an hour. You obviously don't have to worry about the 1-pointer in Sky like you do in FPL, but it could very easily be the 2-pointer. You don't want to get the player in and over the 2 games he gets you 6 points, and I think that's what it might be. His ceiling has a way to go, but as a rule of thumb, that you don't even know if he's going to play, so it's a no, Steve. If they were the 2 o'clock kickoff and you could see he was definitely in the team, I'd say yeah, I don't mind it, but otherwise no, it's a no from me, mate. Ulan says, do you think KDB is going to be benched? I think he probably plays tomorrow, but it would be no surprise. I noticed Gundogan obviously played extensive minutes in midweek and did the weekend before. There might be a bit of theory in getting him up to fitness. I worry, and I spoke about this on our Patreon pod this morning. I say worry, that's incorrect. Gundogan breaks into the penalty area and goes beyond when Foden's playing as the central striker, which is something that De Bruyne obviously won't particularly do. It's something that Bernardo Silva can do as well, because Bernardo and Gundogan both did it in the fixture at Brighton last weekend. But it would seem silly to take KDB out of the midfield zone when they're in attacking plays to get him to stand in the penalty area. That seems a little bit silly. Foden is to come out so he can go and dictate and control things. But I think KDB possibly starts tomorrow. A little bit of a tactical tweak for them against Palace. Perhaps a little bit more consciousness of Palace's quick ability to counter-attack, because I imagine Zaha will come back in for them tomorrow. I mean, at the moment, KDB, unfortunately, is not really an option, because it's very conceivable that he could be benched tomorrow. Hopefully that answers James Beacock's following question as well. FPL Wilson's in says, surely Leicester score versus Arsenal worth playing Foster over Ramsdale? Yeah, I think that's one you probably would play Foster. But I note the comment from FPL General earlier today is that if you got a 4.0 to just subsidise a starting keeper every week, it's not a bad set of mind to just start with the starting goalkeeper. I don't particularly fancy Watford for a clean sheet tomorrow. I don't think Ben Foster's impressed in the games that he's played for Watford since he's got the shirt from Daniel Backman. And that Brighton could lose 2-0 and Sanchez could go and get a 4-pointer or so tomorrow with some save points and stuff. So I'm using Sanchez as an example. Obviously the same could happen with Ramsdale. Personally, yeah, I probably would play Foster. But if you've got a set idea that Ramsdale is your number one every week, I don't think Leicester away is enough to make you want to move it. Personally, if I had Sanchez, I'd play Foster tomorrow as well. But it's not cut and dry. I wouldn't fancy Watford for a clean sheet, to be honest. Static says, hi James, hope you and the fam are well. Thoughts on bringing in Jesus instead of Tony this week? The plan is to bring in Tony next week versus Norwich. Just go to Tony, mate. We're all getting new injuries every week at the moment, aren't we? If you know that's where you're going, if you got the luxury, you love your squad, no injury issues, you can go for Jesus for 1 week, fine, but just go to Tony, personally. Just go to Tony. It's not like Tony's got the worst fixture in the world this week, is it? Warnock says, best defence now, is it just one of Liverpool, Chelsea and City each, or do you double up on one? The best back three in the game right now is obviously Trent, Cancelo, Ben Chilwell. Can't argue that. Livramento and another coverage on the bench sounds absolutely perfect, ideally. To be honest, you could argue Livramento and like a Javier Manquillo or something would be kind of ideal strategy. I think a lot are going 4-4-2 at the moment though, in which case obviously double ups are reasonable. I'd say probably not within Liverpool. You'd want that to be City or Chelsea. In the immediate, it's Chelsea. Even after these 2 good fixtures, Leicester, Manchester United, Watford, West Ham, Leeds, Everton, Wolves, Villa, Brighton. I mean, it's good for a sustained period, basically. Then they have Liverpool, Manchester City back-to-back 21-22, which is quite interesting because in theory, their African players could, including Edward Mendy, could miss those 2 games. But I suspect certainly game week 21, they should be available. So it's probably still optimal to have double Chelsea. So with that in mind, I would say Rudiger complement, because you've got those attacking fullbacks. Get one in there, it's a consistent, he's going to play nearly every week. You can have Livramento as your first sub every week, and then that allows you 4.5 midfielder, 4.5 forward. Seems a very reasonable way to go. Warnock said best defence now, that's the one I've just done. Owen Wilson, how do you tactically see Spurs versus United going? Cagey or end-to-end stuff? Cagey. I think Suj called it spot on the Patreon pod this morning, where he said, I can see it being quite crap, but there might be some goals in it. So, yeah, because at the top end, both teams obviously have elite strikers. So, yeah, I would imagine it to be quite cagey. wouldn't expect it to finish 0-0. I think Varane being back available for United is huge and gives them the slight edge that if you'd asked me earlier in the week, I'd have said no, I quite fancy it. So I think Varane being back for United is pretty big, actually. Be good for Maguire as well. Be good for Wan-Bissaka. I think it probably gives United a slight edge going into the game tomorrow. Matthew says, the fullback situation at City is worrying me with the 45 minutes apiece. What do you think? It was planned. So Guardiola said after the game it was planned. 45 minutes for Walker, 45 minutes for Cancelo, because they played a lot recently. If I was sitting there with Cancelo, which I am, I'd feel very confident that he's going to play tomorrow. I'd feel very, very comfortable with that. It was planned. Get some minutes to Zinchenko. A lot of the press conference seemed to feature Zinchenko today. Guardiola said a lot of nice things about him. But he also said Cancelo and Walker are playing too well at the moment, basically. So I wouldn't have concerns. FPL Wilson, now that Marcel is ruled out for Monday, do I skip the game or bring someone in, Gray, etc.? So, Mr. Wilson, I'm going to guess you didn't listen to Wednesday's Sky Fantasy Football podcast. The answer is in there. And generally, I've got Marcel in my second team. And my intention will be to buy Max Kilman. Aaron says, what would you do with Mbeumo in Sky? The intention is to keep Aaron. He's opened up the money for me in that particular format. So, and there's a fair chance he plays tomorrow. So, good fixtures to come. Am I bothered if he misses Burnley away? Not really. It's Norwich at home the following week. He's not going anywhere for me, mate. Matthew says, keep Havertz or swap for Foden. Thanks. Yep, I could do that, but I'm rolling a transfer. So, no. I'm going to go with Havertz over the next two. I could make that luxury move, but I'm not going to. Havertz played really well for Chelsea in midweek against Southampton. Could have hauled big. Obviously scored with a header from a corner as well. No, I'll be keeping Kai Havertz. There's no slight on Phil Foden. I'm just not making that transfer. Dan says, have a good weekend, mate. Thank you, Dan. You too. Owen James, chance of Solskjaer not being next to get sacked. Is anyone else more in danger? Well, Claudio Ranieri's in danger, isn't he? Just by association of Watford. We're not going to put Graham Jones into that category, obviously. It's interesting, he said before the Palace game he'd been told he's got the next two games. So I don't know if Newcastle think they've got something in time for next week away to Brighton, and they just didn't want to appoint it in time for Chelsea, because the news front on next Newcastle manager seems to have been very quiet this week. No, I don't think there particularly are many managers. I mean, the only one I could think, there has been a few Rafa Benitez, the Newcastle rumours this week. I guess in theory, should he decide he wanted to go back there, which I can't see personally, then that would presumably happen possibly before Solskjaer. Otherwise, no, I can't see it. The only other one, it might, if Villa lose on Sunday and don't play well, I think the pressure's growing on Dean Smith a little bit. That would be the only one. Nuno is not going to get sacked in the near future. Think of it like this with Nuno, right? He was that 7th, 8th choice for Tottenham in the summer because he couldn't get the appointment right. So who's suddenly become available that they're going to appoint to replace him? Nah, Spurs are just in a waiting game till they can get the manager that they particularly want. Otherwise, no. No, Solskjaer probably will be next to go. And we're in a situation of when rather than if, in my opinion. My friend Tom Campbell's in. Says, hi James, mate. Hope you're good. Who would you lose for Trent this game week? Have Aspi, Rudiger, Diaz or Cancelo? Thanks. Christ. On a stick, Tom. None of them particularly. Yikes. Probably Diaz, based on what I said earlier. Then you're very close to that kind of ideal back four that I said earlier. So probably Diaz, but I'm not sure that makes sense, Tom. I'm not sure that makes sense to move it. If you've got the luxury for Trent, I think that I can't get there at the moment, then you should get him in. Wow. Definitely not. I definitely wouldn't lose Cancelo. I think it'd probably be Diaz, mate. Probably. That's naughty though. Good question. Bailey D says, always wondered if the name Planet FPL was a play on words for Planet FPL, or am I reading too deep? Bailey, we are just not that intelligent for Plan It FPL. You're reading it too deep, mate. Matt Bryant says, hello mate, thinking of taking a -4 to move Benrahma to Foden. Would you go Jimenez to Hwang or Antonio to Tony to fund this, or just go without Foden? I'd just go without Foden. Good fixture for Benrahma at the weekend. And then you can look to move that on next week for Fraser. Think of it like this as well, and it's just a general point. I presume that for the majority of the listeners, we're all kind of in agreement that as much as we all hate it, Salah's got to have the captaincy at the moment. So there's quite a lot of merit, I think, in taking -4s when it's to get the player that you want to captain. Now, with this Salah situation, hits are going to calm down. So you're constantly being in a chasing position to get that. Like Ben Rama could score at Villa on Sunday, definitely. And you want to move like Jimenez down to Hwang? Nah, not for me. Antonio to Tony's a week earlier. Again, Antonio away to Villa this week. It's decent. I'm looking to go Antonio to Tony next week in game week 11. I could do it for free now. I wouldn't do it as part of a -4 to fund something. It's a no for me. I'd go without. We always want to chase last week's great big thing. Palace are a much, much improved team. And as ever with the City assets, no guarantee that he plays. If you've got the luxury of getting a Phil Foden for free, in most scenarios, I think it's great. I wouldn't move off Havertz yet, and I wouldn't move off Rafinha this week. In most other cases, I'd say, yeah, great, crack on. Lexus Steeleman says, thoughts on Reece James, worried about his minutes and can't afford Chilwell after his 50th price rise this week. Lexus, you exaggerate like my missus. She says, this person's phoned 4 million times today. You're exaggerating, love, aren't you? And Lexus, you're exaggerating too. You're going to be in this position with Reece James every week. This is what I've always said about the Chelsea wingbacks. I do think now, though, we're in a strong position with Ben Chilwell to say what we always suspected. He's definitely better than Marcos Alonso. He's going to play the majority of the games. There's no reason to believe Ben Chilwell won't play this week. Reece James, I would say 60-65% probably starts this week. But if you're worried about his minutes and you can't get to Chilwell, so what? So what? I would look at it then, if that's your problem, Lexus, look at making a different move that's going to enable you to get towards Ben Chilwell next week. Or if you're that desperate, look at the -4, but I wouldn't be. Greg Brennan says, hey James, hope you're well, mate. Would you replace Rudiger or Diaz with Chilwell? We debated this on Monday's pod about if you had the luxury to just go Rudiger to Chilwell, would we do it? And I think, yeah, I don't. Unfortunately, technically I do. I have the money in the bank to do it. But it fucks me for future moves, and therefore I'm not going to do that. But yeah, if it doesn't restrict you for future moves, I mean, it's easy now to look at, say, you don't want any Tottenham assets. Like I've seen a lot of teams, particularly wildcard teams at the moment, no premium forward. Great. Mo Salah, and then 3 midfielders, like you've got like Foden, Jota, Mount, this kind of value. They're all great assets, don't get me wrong. But in game week 12, there's a good chance you're going to want one of Sonny or one of Harry Kane. And consider the bigger picture. So for me, it's not just a case of saying, really good to Chilwell. Because if that blocks you to move, say it's my move, Havertz to Son in 12, then no, it's not worth it. So just consider the bigger picture. If not, yeah, I'd move it. I mean, Chilwell's absolutely flying, isn't he? The only thing you'd say is Chilwell will have a 12-pointer, a 0-pointer, like a 6-pointer, a 2-pointer, and Rudiger will have kind of 6-6-6-0 all the way through. And then it's quite close. It probably won't be too much between them, because every now and again Alonso will get the minutes. But I think with the upcoming games, you've got Malmo in the Champions League away this week. Sounds like an Alonso game to me. I think Ben Chilwell, you should be safe for starts, probably for the next 4, actually. Same obviously applies to Rudiger. He's not going to... Rudiger will play 9 out of 10 games and had a break the other week. Holostamos, who's having a brilliant season in FPL at the moment. I forget his rank, but it's top 100 or so, I think. Ronaldo and Charlie Taylor out for Tony and TAA for a -4. I'm going to say no. And the reason I'm going to say no is I fancy Burnley for a clean sheet this week. In spite of the fact I'm leaving Matt Lowton first sub. Yes, I know. That's going to be the no. Ronaldo can do it at any time. I fancy United to win now. If I'm fancying Burnley for a clean sheet, I'm also saying I don't fancy Brentford to score. So I can see Ronaldo scoring this week. I can see a Burnley clean sheet. You need TAA to go off massive for that to be worth it in the immediate. So I'm going to say no. Alex W says, hi James. Aspi to Chilwell or Rafinha to Mount worthwhile or roll? Got Livramento on the bench. Livramento is amazing coverage this week. I'll be starting him personally. again, kind of like the previous question, if you want to move to Chilwell and you've got that luxury, by all means, go and do it. It's looking safer and safer by the week. Rafinha to Mount, no, for me. Simda here says, afternoon James, what do you think about Xavi as the next Barca manager? Inexperienced or the right man to bring back good football at Barca? We'd all be guessing, wouldn't we, Sim? Certainly looks like Xavi will be the next Barcelona manager. I think this has been in the pipeline for quite a while, and I'm surprised it's taken so long. There's no way of knowing, right? You would think, like, he's played under Guardiola, he played under Frank Rijkaard, certainly understands the ethos of what a Barcelona team should be. So certainly in principle, he'll get them back playing to the beat of the drum, if you will, the way they should play. But there's no guarantee it's going to work, right? What's his man management like? These things are completely unpredictable. They've still got some egos there, as is every big club. But in terms of football, the quality should improve. I don't think there's doubt about that. Ruben Nikolov says, should I keep Aspi in starting 11 or subbing for Super Valentino Livra? You're not benching Azpilicueta away to Newcastle, are you? Let's have some serious questions. Rasmus Anderson says, I benched Lukaku last week. Is there a good short-term punt before going Kane in 12? Or would you go directly? I'd just go directly, to tell you the truth. Yeah, that's what I did last week. Was go to Kane directly, because exactly that. I couldn't see a forward over a 3-week period that I could say this player is going to outscore Harry Kane by 5 points or more, and that's what it would have to be worthwhile for me of not just to gone straight to Harry Kane, because it would feature a hit to then get Kane in 12. So I mean, if he's going to put you in a hit as well, and I think in any case at short term, not to go to Kane, you'd want at least 5 more points, wouldn't you? I think it's a no. The fixtures don't look great for Kane the next 2, but it's also 2 teams that conceded 5 goals in the last 2 games. Now, I think Varane will make a difference for United, and I think Yerry Mina, as and when fit, will make a difference for Everton as well. But Kane's got a very good record at Goodison Park, by the way, as well. It's worth saying. So, now, if your plan is Kane in 12, I would just go there. I don't think there's anything obvious. I don't think there's anything obvious at all. If you're going Tony, but I think you're carrying it through, you're not moving off Tony in 12 when he's got Newcastle away, I don't think. So, no, just Kane in my opinion. JFPL says, hi James, have Azpilicueta to Trent booked in for game week 12. Do you reckon it's worth doing this week? I can do it for free. You can get Trent for free and it doesn't affect your future plans, Jay. I'd get Trent in. Azpilicueta can haul, you know that, but Trent's like a comfort blanket. If you can afford it, mate, I'd get him in. James says, Mark on Black Box explained pretty well my current thoughts on Liverpool. Mark explains most things pretty well, in fairness to him. Most of us will have Salah and Trent. Surely we need a third to benefit from how good they are and great fixtures. But who? Mane? Question. Like, I haven't seen Black Box this week, but I know Mark has been big on Jota, and I don't suppose his performance at Old Trafford last week would have probably changed Mark's mind. I don't think. I actually think Jota will probably get left out this week, but I'm not going to move it on. I'm going to suffer it because I'd hate to sell him if he was in the starting lineup personally. Yeah, if that's the case that Mark's made, it's a very valid point. But then I haven't got Trent, right? I just can't get back there at the moment, unfortunately. So it's not. You are still beating plenty of people. Of course, so many people will have Trent, and obviously nearly everybody's got Salah and the armband on him at this stage. There's a case for it. I wouldn't pay that much for Mane at the moment, personally. It's just difficult. Again, this is one we discussed on Clash of Correspondence yesterday with FPL Loco Lord. It's how do you justify the what's the difference between a 4 million difference or so between Jota and Mane? If it's 4.5 million or so, it's so difficult to justify paying that extra for Mane over Jota when Jota could play over Mane in any single week. Remember, Liverpool in a really good position in the Champions League, but you know, still got to play Atletico this coming week and stuff. They've still got a little bit of work to do. So I just couldn't justify the money for Mane over Jota right now. That would be my take. So I think Jota or Andrew Robertson are very interesting ways to look at it differently. But then you go for Robertson, you get the gain on Liverpool. You know, there's other people who've got double Chelsea or double City. You can't win everywhere. Sigurd Eskelin says, hi James, what are your thoughts on Son going forward? Looking to get him in 12, mate. Looking to get him in 12. Should something happen to Kai Havertz in the next 7 days, I'd probably take a hit to get him in 11. Just get it done, I think, quite possibly. So yeah, I'm looking to get him in. I want to pair him with Kane for those 4 fixtures. That's one that's going to be different, right? Not many people, it's exactly that, to go back to the previous question that James asked about, what Mark referenced on Liverpool. A lot of people are going to want a Tottenham player in 12. I don't think many people are going to have Son and Kane. So that's going to be a real differential for me to have both. And I mean, at the moment, Kane's ridiculously lowly owned, isn't he? At 6% or something. I don't know his live ownership, but that's his overall ownership. I don't suppose his live ownership's that much more, actually. So, again, it depends how you weigh it up. Sonny, I'm very interested in, mate. Any game, any time, when he returns, tends to return big. Matt J says, hi James, pretty much settled on my wild card, but I'm still mulling over Vardy, Brownhill and Mount, or Son, Havertz and 4.5 million forward. What would you do? Good question. Good question. I take it you don't want Kane then. That's fine. Vardy, Mount, Brownhill's fine. So Son, Havertz and 4.5 million forward. It could be 4. We're basically saying Son and Havertz or Vardy and Mount, aren't we? Prefer Son and Havertz personally. That would be where I'd want to be at, I think. It's close though. Notorious Nerd says benching dilemma, Foster or Ramsdale. I've already covered that one on the stream, my friends. I'm not going to cover that off again. FPL Red said swapped Foden to Havertz for a -4 last week. Part of me wants to swap straight back. Am I a plonker? No, mate. There was theory in what you did. I think you can probably look at it now and say it's regrettable, but I understand probably the keenness to get Kai Havertz in last week. As already covered, no, I wouldn't swap it back. Thomas says, what defence do you prefer? Double up from Chelsea or City? I've covered that already. Thank you, Thomas. Essence says, hi, James. If you had to transfer in only one now and be able to get the other later on, would you rather get in Chilwell or Foden? Assuming player taken out is a bench player, already have Christensen. Wouldn't read too much into what the rest of the squad is. Chilwell at the price would be more of the priority, I think, personally. I'd say if I was wildcarding now, Chilwell would be a certainty for me now. And I've always been, those who listen to me regularly will know I've been very cold on the Chelsea wing-backs. But I think it looks very strong now for Ben Chilwell. So Chilwell would almost definitely be in for me. And Foden probably would be as well where I am wildcard. But I think he's one where I'd look at it and go, can I make sacrifices? You know, if I was short enough, I'm 0.6, it's too much. You know, can I go Jota instead, for example? Probably yes. I probably wouldn't want to make that concession with Chilwell at the moment. So, Chilwell, actually. The other thing is, as well, if you're looking to get one later on, I mean, City's kind of any time, right? Chelsea, them next 2 fixtures. It's a now for Chilwell for me. Notorious Nerd says, with news of Broha being out, who do you think will start in the forward positions for Southampton? I think it'd be Adam Armstrong and Redmond tomorrow. Adam's just come back. Adams and Armstrong both played midweek. I think Adam Armstrong will probably play with Redmond is my instinct. I would not be surprised if it's Che Adams instead. But I think Adam Armstrong will play for Southampton tomorrow. And if he's still in your team, I'd start him. Alan Holohan says, afternoon, James. Would you start Saka or Mbeumo? I think for me, Mbeumo, actually, personally. How often is Saka hauled away from home? That's something for you to research there, Alan. Not that we can say that Mbeumo has, but yeah, I'd possibly go Mbeumo, I think. Again, not a lot in that. Liam Stevens says, Kilman to Livramento next Friday. Sky FF. Yeah, it's one way of doing it, Liam. If you got any injuries and therefore can get Livramento in tomorrow, would be a better setup. What's the early game tomorrow? Leicester, Arsenal. I mean, like if you've got Ben White, for example, just saying, if you've got an Arsenal player, if they're not in that team tomorrow, I'd consider getting Livramento in tomorrow. Lalo Tree says, hi James, should I worry about with Foden, Mount, Chilwell for game week 10? I mean, you should worry about it every week, mate. Listen, if you're going to have players that are going to be a rotation threat, you either live with a worry and accept it for what it is, or you get rid of these players. Simple as that. FPL Kaka, is it worth rolling my transfer still if I own Rafinha, Vardy, Christensen and Mbeumo? Have 1.2 million in the bank, but just think maybe more info next week is more valuable. Exactly that, mate. So, my plan moves, as I said, is Antonio to Tony in 11, Havertz to Son in 12. Now, currently I'm about 0.2 short. Now, I could get rid of Kieran Tierney now, get him down to a 4.4, 4.5. That's all I need to do, and it opens up the game. But what if I get a different player gets injured for me next week, and then I'm having to take a -4 to make the transfers and stuff? So I think with Matt Lowton, I've got one decent cover this week. I'm better off waiting personally. And then if something else happens, then fine, I can move that on instead. So, yeah, rolling is a powerful tool, right? And if you're ever in doubt, I always say do it. Richard Drew says, hi James, will Reece James start? Is Chilwell the safer option? Chilwell's a safer option. It's a bit repetitive, guys. Tommy Gord, which former player would you like to coach Spurs? A former Spurs player who would be a good coach for Spurs. Yikes. God, can't think of too many, mate, off the top of my head. Running through a lot of players in my head right now, and I can't be seeing any of them as managers. No. I can't really think of anyone. I think probably the wider conversation there is, Tamray, that like kind of having this association of, I want a manager because he played for this club previously. He's not necessarily a good strategy anymore. It'll kind of be ruthless and get a manager in who's going to make the team better. It gives you a link between fans, but if you build something like what David Moyes is now building at West Ham, or what Pochettino had built at Tottenham, then that relationship will build naturally. Whether the player's been at the club previously or not, it will just naturally be that way. You can still do it. I think most of us know that whenever Jurgen Klopp steps down at Liverpool, that Steven Gerrard will probably be the next manager. I can't think of any Tottenham player off the top of my head who I'd think, yeah, I'd like you to come and be the manager of the football team. I can't think of anyone. In fact, I'm struggling to think of any Tottenham player of the last 30 years who's gone on and done well in management. I can't think of anyone. Johnny says, hi James, love the pod. Best Raya replacement, I'm looking at Gator or Fernandes. And for the Sky listeners, in case you haven't seen it, Alvaro Fernandes is in at 6 million. Major tempter in Sky Fantasy. I realise for the FPL listeners that probably sounds silly, ridiculous. It's not in Sky Fantasy football. I think Fernandes is very reasonable. Tom Meadow, Brentford correspondent, thinks he's decent what he's seen of him so far. I think going and getting Alvaro Fernandes is absolutely fine. It's not a great week to go and get Gator, is it? Ahead of Manchester City away, though they then do have a good run of fixtures. But I think Brentford's are better. And I'll probably chance Fernandes, actually. 1M, 1 go. Hi, James. As a Brighton fan, I have a moral obligation not to captain Salah. Do you prefer either Havertz, Foden, or Antonio? Listen. Think of it like this, right? Captain Salah, seriously. And it's not going to make a blind bit of difference if he scores or he blanks. So you can cheer him blanking. Right, it's not going to make a blind bit of difference. If he has a 1-pointer, everyone's in the same boat. If he gets a 12-pointer, everyone's in the same boat, except for you, who's deciding to go against it. And it's just not a sensible thing to do. There is no moral. Just do it, mate. Honestly, just do it. Sam, our Brighton correspondent, he's going to do the same. He captained Havertz last week. He doesn't care. He wants Salah to blank. I don't care. I don't care if Salah scores or doesn't score this week. Doesn't make a difference at this point, basically. Just stick the armband on him, mate. Because it's just too much hurt if he goes off, mate. Hamish Holmes says, Sky question, is Raf the best captain option on Sunday? Yes, probably slightly if he is in the team. As it stands, I'm probably going Antonio. However, much may depend on Joel Matip. I think I spotted something that he might have pulled up at Preston, which has not been covered. And with Konate playing at Manchester United, there was no guarantee that he's going to come back into the team in any case anyway. And if Matip's not in that team, he's probably got to go. And then the obvious one for me is Rafinha. And then there's a decision to make. Because it's not just getting Rafinha in and captain. I'm moving it off Antonio as well. But I think because of the opposition, if he's in the team, yeah, you've probably got to attack it, I think. Colm Burglar saying, hit that thumb button. Yeah, that would be much appreciated, guys. If you're in the stream, give the stream a like. Helps spread the Planet FPL word into the wider YouTube word. I'd appreciate that. Smash a like, I think the kids say these days, and even some of the older ones. Hit the subscribe button while you're there as well. Be much appreciated. Lalutri says, James, is still ever Ronaldo in my team. What should I do? Sell him, but not for the sake of selling him. But yeah, sell him. I don't think there's anything great to move to this week, personally. So you could play him at Tottenham and roll transfer. That's where I'd be at, and then make 2 moves next week. James98 says, afternoon, James. What do you think are the odds of Christensen having braces on tomorrow? Oh, he's had some dental trouble, hasn't he? I guess he could have braces on tomorrow. It's quite true. I hadn't thought of that. Not that it particularly matters. Dylan Ferner Rose says, thinking to bring in Mane and Hwang for Vardy and Benrahma. Time to get risky. What I'd advise you to do, Dylan, is go and have a historical look at Jamie Vardy's record against Arsenal. And if you're still happy to make that transfer, fine, crack on. Tommy and Peace says, James, is now the time to get Heung-min Son with United and Everton looking defensively ropey. Could he be a good differential before Spurs' good run, or do I just follow the herd and go Foden? Follow the herd and go Foden in the immediate is my honest response to that. But Sonny's a reasonable get. He can score tomorrow. He scored home and away against Manchester United last year, admittedly with no crowd in the ground. Yeah, Sonny's a decent get. Absolutely fine. FPL Kaka, do you think Foden is going to be the real deal this season, with Pep going to make him too frustrating to own with his rotation? Well, he is the real deal as a footballer. Is Pep going to make him too frustrating? Yeah, possibly. Second guessing Guardiola. We'll still be having these conversations about someone else in a couple of years, mate. It will never end. Actually, we probably won't, because he might have gone, Guardiola. Martin Boyle says, hi James, do you think this is a season of piling all your money into your starting 11? Or spreading your money around the squad, considering all the injuries and rotation that keeps happening? It depends on your principal idea. I'm someone who likes the feel of having someone on my bench that is a reasonable asset, personally. So I think you're at a mix. Like, I've got a dead 4.5 million forward. You can have a dead 4.4 midfielder or a dead 4.0 defender. There's not really a case for having a player dead in defence, because even you've got like someone like Makio who's playing at the moment, and they've got good home fixtures in 12, 14, 15 where you could use him, for example. So I think a mix and a match of the two is probably the right answer there, Martin. Andras Yamsek says, hi James, any temptation to play Livramento ahead of Rafinha, Antonio and Buemo this week? No. Livramento over Buemo would be close, I think. Not over Rafinha or Tony. And Buemo would be close for me, because I guess there's a possibility that he's a substitute. But no, I wouldn't. I'd play the others. FPL Karanva says, hi James, where do you want to travel the most but have never been, and why? Albania. Europa Conference League final in May. Beth Media, I know you don't like the word, but is Mo Salah essential? Lol, by the way, I wonder where the Morpay guy is. Yeah, where is the Morpay guy who was in my streams all the time? Yeah, he is. He is, basically, at the moment. Yeah, he's as close to I've known it, what it is right now. Like, if you go without him and he carries on, you're dead. Your season's going to finish. Like, I think a lot of us got burnt last week, and it was with good reason to go against. Like, when it's a close call now, it's just not worth going against. One of the things I said on the pod on Monday was, we're now at a 14-player game, and it's no one's fault. Like, it's not even FPL Towers for pricing him at 12.5, because the reality is he could be 14.5 million at the moment, and he'd still feel like you had to have him in the team. So from that perspective, it doesn't make a difference. So yeah, he's as close to getting it. I think, look, the reason I don't like using that word essential is because you can go against. I just think we're at a stage now, like, it's not worth it. It is not worth going against Mo Salah at the moment. But there are people that will. And next week, I don't think there's much of a case this week. Like, with Tottenham playing United, you could say Foden. I mean, Salah's at home. You know, next week, there is an arguable case to say, with the like, I mean, if Everton looks shocking on Monday and still without Mina, you've got alternatives. Son and Kane at Everton. You've got City at United. as an alternative, as opposed to Liverpool going to West Ham. West Ham are beginning to look one of the best defensive teams in this league, which is why I say that. You've got Chelsea at home to Burnley. You've even got, you really want to swing different, you've got the likes of Brentford at home to Norwich. So, like, there is a little bit of a conversation next week, and I actually think Brighton are a very good side defensively, but didn't really show it last week, did they? If they go and open up against Liverpool like they did against Man City, Salah's going to go off again. No, I don't think they will. And I really wouldn't be surprised if Mo Salah blanks this particular week, because nothing lasts forever. And it's not permanent. He's not perma-captain for the next... Even if the African Nations gets called off, Mo Salah is not perma-captain for the rest of the season. He will have a little lull at some point. It's about, basically, in my opinion, you pick your battles. So you pick when you go against. Last week, I decided to pick to go against. And I felt I had a strong case. And if I was in that position again, I would do it again. Honestly, I would do it again. So no regrets, but I don't think this is not a weekend to pick your battles. Notorious Nerd, who would be the best replacement for Oli? Conte, Rodgers, Ten Hag, Pochettino. Conte. And the reason Antonio Conte, in my opinion, is he's the best manager of those named. Proven successful. And it's all well and good. I hear a lot of United fans saying, "Oh, he's not going to be there long term." Yeah, Thomas Tuchel's probably not going to be at Chelsea long term. Look how they work. Right now, you're competing against three of the best managers in the world playing in this league right now. Guardiola's going to go in 23. Tuchel probably won't be at Chelsea forever. You know, City, whoever replaces Guardiola, that's going to be a nightmare job to try and keep that. Someone might come with a completely different style of tactics and it will take a while to adjust. They'll have a real problem trying to replace him. I think at 23 he's going to go, isn't he? He said. Conte immediately gives Manchester United a chance to win the Champions League this year. I don't think any of the others do. And Manchester United is too big to be wasting time, in my opinion. So they should go and get Antonio Conte. And my opinion would be genuinely that they would be a live runner for the Champions League this year because they've got enough quality in the attacking third of the pitch. And they potentially would be able to put a team together that could win the title next season. I don't think any of the others can do that. Not in a year. Could they, over 3-4 years, progress it quickly? Yeah. But you know what? If Conte has one good year doing it and then it kind of blows up the next year, fine. Then get one of these other guys. Andrew Grandin says, James, should Duffy feel a little hard done by? Guys played well for a decent Brighton defence and gets immediately thrown in the trash by Potter at the earliest opportunity. You have to remember that Shane Duffy was very far down the pecking order and got back in because of other people's injuries and stuff. And I think Duffy might play at Liverpool tomorrow because they might decide to be a bit more compact and try and force Liverpool to cross the ball in the box, which Duffy and Dunk will be able to deal with. It might mean that Joel Veltman possibly has to play left-sided centre-back. I wouldn't be that surprised tomorrow if Webster and Duffy both played and they played Veltman at right wing-back. He's done great for himself. I read a really nice story about him driving back from Celtic and feeling a real low and actually considering retirement from football. So the fact that he's got himself in a nice mental place and he's improved dramatically for Brighton this year is really good. The reality is he long-term first choice? No. He's done very well. In this business, and it is a business, I don't think you can have that kind of sympathy for that. To say, oh, he keeps playing well. You could make a case that he didn't deserve to be left out against Man City. They might have lost by worse if he played against Man City. Arnab Roy says, James, what is your thoughts on Brentford defence? Is Pinnock a good pick over Chilwell? Brentford's defensive number is better than Chelsea's. Chelsea kept many clean sheets because of Mendy. Who's going to keep more clean sheets going forward, mate? Is it Chelsea or Brentford? Let's be realistic about this. Their numbers are good. I wouldn't buy Pinnock right now anyway because he's a doubt for tomorrow. He should be fine, but nah. Wouldn't buy him personally at the moment. Look at Pontus Jansson or Rico Henry as alternatives currently. Notorious Nerd, is there any possibility of Kane leaving in January? Yes. If Newcastle or Man City want to come up with £150 million, which they're not going to do. So I guess that means no, really. James Beacock, thoughts on Rodrigo as a 1 week punt? Don't mind it. Don't mind it at all, as long as it is literally that. Notorious Nerd, impact of Kovacic's injury on Chelsea. They're probably playing Golo Kante instead. He's been playing very well, Kovacic. I mean, but what a position to be in that Kante probably comes back into the team. And actually, they might not rush Kante. Loftus-Cheek might play tomorrow instead. And the one thing he does that the others don't do great is he's a better ball progressor. He's done more of it for Chelsea than he probably did all of last season at Fulham, actually. And he's been doing a right playing in that team. So they got the cover. I think the only thing is, the impact is there's been games where Tuchel's wanted to play all three, Kante, Jorginho and Kovacic. I think that removes that. So they go back to kind of the 3-4-2-1 that works best for them. Meninda says, is it worth a Sky transfer from Ramsey to another if he isn't starting tonight? Cheers. Well, he won't start tonight, mate, because he's not playing till Sunday. So, I mean, you're not going to know, mate. You're not going to know because they're the 4 o'clock kickoff on Sunday. So it's not going to help you, Meninda. This might be a discussion for next week. I would say that Ramsey probably doesn't play. And my advice to you would be go and buy an Aston Villa player on Sunday regardless anyway. Consider Martinez, consider Danny Ings. Those would be the two, really. Lalo Tree, hi again, James. What do you think about Sarr? Worth holding one more week? Definitely. Definitely. Me and Suj had a laugh about this on our Patreon pod this morning. And loads of people talking about leaving Sarr out this week. Worried he ain't going to play. Dennis is suspended. Go and look at Ranieri's quotes from yesterday. Ismaila Sarr against Southampton. It's fine, mate. I'd definitely hold him for this week. And then, yeah, I'd be looking to move it on. Obviously, look, if you are in the luxury position where you can go like Sarr to Foden on a free transfer, then, of course, I completely understand moving it on. Otherwise, play him. Work away. Ragav says, hi, James. How to recover from a horrible game week. Feeling so shit after 68 points last week. Differential City captain. No, mate. The thing to do is not chase your losses more, right? It's like going in the bookies, having a cert, sticking 50 quid on it and it losing, and then making the same mistake again and then losing another 50 quid. No, it's not the right thing to do. I scored very similar to you last week, Raghav. And what made me feel shit last Sunday was Tottenham losing at West Ham. not captaining Mo Salah. No, you don't chase that and make it worse, my friend. This is, as I've already discussed, this is not the time to fight the battle, mate. There will be other times we can take it on. This isn't it, in my opinion. Jedi92 says, hi, James. Keep up the good work. Would you bench boost with Foster and Buemo, Livramento and Brownhill? Rest of the team starts? No. You think the rest of the team starts. You can guarantee that Ben Foster stays in goal for Watford? He probably does, but can you guarantee it? Nope. Guarantee that Mbuemo is going to start at Burnley? Nope. Guarantee that Brownhill is going to start for Burnley? Nope. That could easily be Cork and Westwood in midfield, McNeil and Goodmanson in the wide positions, and Maxwell Cornet and Chris Wood up front. Now, there's no reason to believe that none of these guys start, and I don't know what the rest of your 11 is. So if you're sitting there with the likes of Azpilicueta and stuff like that, well, you know, any Chelsea defensive option, bar probably Silva and Rudiger this week, in theory could be rotated. I would say João Cancelo is probably about 90% to start this week, in my opinion. Could be rotated. No. Not for me, and that's why nearly always you're going to get the answer from me on in terms of bench boosting in single game weeks. You've got to be so sure. So sure, in my opinion. Addy Tor says, hi, James. Do you think AFCON will happen now after the Cameroon problems? Your guess is as good as mine, Addy. As good as mine. Could it move to next summer in a different location? Could it move to a different location in January? I feel like they've moved the tournament at like a week's notice before, so I don't envisage it being cancelled unless it was to get moved again, which personally I don't see happening. So I imagine the tournament will still take place. Joshua Tan says, hi, James. Should I start James or Livramento? You don't leave out Chelsea defender, mate. Not in almost any game. We're talking Newcastle away. You play Reece James, mate. Patrick says, hi, James. How would you order Hwang and Buemo, Livramento and Saka? Only one of them starts for me. I'd probably go Hwang this week, actually, from that. I'd possibly do it in the order that you've written it, actually, Patrick. Would possibly be where I'm at. Ruffy Varma says, Antonio in or Jimenez in? I don't think you're buying Antonio now with the 5 fixtures following this week. Liverpool, Wolves, Man City, Brighton, Chelsea. It's not the time to be going on to Antonio, I think. Jimenez, nice 5 fixtures. That's a better buy as it stands at the moment. Indranil says, Chilwell in place of Aspi. Is it too sideways? We've covered this off. Ayush says, will it be worth it to get Son this week? I've covered that one as well. Matt Bryant, you might not get to this, but just want to say thanks for answering my question earlier and in general sharing your thoughts for us every week. Find it massively helpful. You're very welcome, Matt. I very much appreciate that. And I'm going to end on this from Dan, who says, you bringing in Fernandes in Sky Fantasy Football. I did mention, obviously, about that 6 million price tag. Part of my strategy was to go Martinez to Raya after Villa's Friday night game in time for Brentford's fixture against Norwich. And I'm going to take a bit of time considering it. I would say most likely yes. I probably will. Won't be this week because I don't own Raya. I obviously need Martinez for next Friday night. But I would say on the Saturday when Brentford play Norwich, yep, I may well go and get that done, actually. 6 million starting goalkeeper for a side who's much better than we expected defensively. It's cheap enough to take the gamble, I think, possibly. And it's actually, I mean, it's too cheap, basically. Because Raya was too cheap at 6.3. And arguably the way they've been going, he should have been coming in at 6.5, 6.6. But I guess they've taken I discussed this on Wednesday's pod. I had no idea which way they'd go with it. Because I didn't have the historical knowledge of knowing what they do in this sort of situation. They put him in at 6 million. It's a phenomenal price for a starting goalkeeper and a side that's doing well defensively and walks into good fixtures. I mean, his first 6 would be Norwich, Newcastle, Everton, Tottenham, Leeds, Watford. It's decent. There's a rougher Christmas, and of course, if you go down that route, there is a danger of not being able to get away. But even if he gets injured, they have priced up the third choice goalkeeper as well, and they've priced him at 5.8. So it might just be a case of sucking it up and going, yeah, do you know what? I'm going with that. And the beauty of going in for, say, the Norwich fixture, for those who own Martinez like me, the Watford game on the Friday night means that you can even move off for what looks a rougher run of fixtures. You get a good 6, and then you can decide after the Watford game what you want to do with it, whether you're happy to keep it, or if you want to move it on the next day, as long as you plan to leave the money, you can go to basically any of the other 18 goalkeepers in the league. So I think I probably will get him and take the chance, yeah. Alright, that's all. Thanks for that, guys. Apologies to those who I didn't get to your questions. If you want to take a screenshot of your question, feel free to do so now and DM me and I will answer it. If it's something I've already covered on the stream, no, please don't. Amount of Ben Chilwell questions. We get the message. It'd be a good buy. Right, still got the deadline stream to come up for you tomorrow, 10 a.m. UK time on YouTube. We'll always be back with our game week review on Monday. My Ask James stream will be on Tuesday next week. That's because of the Friday deadline. It'll be Sky Fantasy Football Wednesday. Thursday, Leeds versus Leicester clash to correspondence FPL tactician Aaron Lagor. And it'll be People's Poll on Friday, which is highly likely to be something FPL related. Our intermediate tier podcast on Patreon will be a Q&A Monday, Champions League preview on Tuesday, Tottenham on Wednesday, and West Ham might have a new owner very soon. We'll be talking about that quite a bit. Thursday will be a quiz. Friday will be our Game Week 11 preview. There's additional video content at advanced tier as well. And if you just want to buy us a beer, £3 a month will get you into our community. Early release of podcasts that are pre-recorded and get you all importantly into the Planet FPL Slack channel. Be much appreciated. It's the 29th of the month. You can obviously either wait till the 1st, but if you want to catch up perhaps the differential show recorded earlier today, if you want to sign up today, we'll get you refunded so you're not charged twice over the weekend. That's all for now. Other than that, for the benefit of those on the audio, I hope your arrows are green. Cue music please, man child.